Good day, YouTube, and to my viewers, and especially my subscribers. And all of you, welcome to my channel. The following topic I have been concerned about for many, many years, especially when my older children were young. And it's about sex offender registries, also known as Megan's Law. And are they truly protecting our children? Now, our neighborhoods are very bastion of security, has expanded across the internet. And this is only a prelude of what's to come in future video presentations. And I will touch upon the internet a little bit later in this video. But I come before you stating that these laws, these sex offender registries, are an abdication of the judicial system. You see, they're expecting from us to monitor, basically, these sex offenders within our community. You know, as I've stated in previous videos, we're all living pretty busy lives. And I want to direct this to any of you who have children in school, from primary grades on up. Now, originally, notices were supposed to be sent home to the parents of sex offenders within their neighborhood. I'd like to ask any of you, have you gotten any of these notices coming home to you? So, if you have, what are you supposed to do about that? How are you supposed to guard your children from these predators within your own neighborhood? I just don't know. You see, in prison, if they are locked up, they're being watched by correctional officers. They're the best ones to monitor these monsters. Like, what qualifications do we have as a society to monitor these predators in our own communities? We don't have any. Basically, the judicial system said, well, we have no way of dealing with them, nor do we want to lock them up for the rest of their life. We'll leave them in communities where children may be living. Some are told that they can't live within communities where children are present. But as I stated before, communities have grown larger thanks to the internet. And in this case, it's not so good. More on that later. Megan's Law originated when a girl from New Jersey named Megan Kenka was raped and she was killed by a sexual predator. Killed. And the best answer that lawmakers could come up with in handling these predators, who haven't killed yet, but some have, is to put them back in our communities. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair to the rest of us. You know, we choose a community that we deem safe for our children. We pay a lot of money for that home and the property taxes on that home. Yet we have to deal with predators within our community. I find this very disturbing. Now, the federal law, a version of Megan's Law, differed drastically, and I'm reading this from an article that I will include at the description box under my video. Differed drastically from New Jersey's version of Megan's Law. The federal law required all 50 states to release information to the public about known convicted sex offenders when it was necessary to protect their safety. But did not mandate active notification. What? Did not mandate active notification? So basically our children are sitting ducks? I guess so. If a state failed to comply with minimal release of information standards established by the federal government, then the state risked losing federal crime-fighting funding. The federal government then, that state, risked losing federal crime-fighting funding. The federal mandate to release information to the public is often mistakenly referred to as community notification when, in actuality, the federal mandate required just the release of information to the public, not active notification. Not active notification. So how are we going to protect our children when we're not actively being notified that they're within our communities? There is a significant difference between simply releasing information, making it available for the public to access on its own. Again, it goes back to, we're all living busy lives. How often are we, especially the ones with children, finding out who these monsters are within our community to best protect our children? That is the question for you. especially if you have children. This is really sad and yet maddening. Often it's where law enforcement officers or designated government agencies actively go door to door or send out mailings to inform neighbors and schools of who's living within them. Now, as I've reported in previous cases where children have been murdered and where CPS has failed in those cases, are these agencies now failing to protect our children by not going door to door and actively notifying us? Yeah, I would go out on a limb and say yes. The federal Megan's Law did not require all 50 states to enact notification laws, whereas New Jersey's state's Megan's Law had specific requirements for active community negotiations, notifications, I mean. New Jersey got it right. The federal law didn't. And this is where we have to be enraged that these monsters are living in our community. How many are them of them are targeting our children at this present moment? How many of them are actually being monitored? That is a question that we must all ask. Before Megan's Law, there was the Jacob Wetterling Sexually Violent Offender Registration Act. 11-year-old Jacob Wetterling bicycled with his brother Trevor, 10, and a friend Aaron, 11, to their Minnesota home from a convenience store where they had rented a video. Their ride home was interrupted by a masked man who stepped out of a driveway with a gun and ordered the children to throw their bikes into a ditch and lie face down on the ground. After asking the boys their ages, he told Jacob's brothers and friends to run into the woods and not look back or he would shoot them. No arrest has ever been made, and Jacob has never been found. Investigators later learned that unbeknownst to local law enforcement, sex offenders were being sent to live in halfway houses nearby. Were one of these sex offenders in one of these halfway houses actually the murder of Jacob? We will never know. And that is what terrifies me when you hear about missing children all across our country. Are they very well dead at the hands of sexual predators? Yes, this is meant to be terrifying. I just don't understand why we are expected to have them live within our communities and not locked up in the prison system. for the rest of their lives. When it comes to these monsters who prey upon our children, it's a recidivist crime. When I said I didn't want to know what was in the mind of Christopher Watts as he killed his children and dumped their bodies into oil tanks, I definitely do not want to know what's in the mind of a sexual predator, because it's their very drive to keep on feeding on these children. That's what they're all about, and that's so angering to me. Why the judicial system has abandoned all of us in allowing them to live in our communities. Remember, I'm a victim's first person, and to me, all of our children are in danger from these very predators. They are victims. These predators go on to murder their very soul. They're the ones who have to live with this for the rest of their life. And this is the best that we can do to protect future victims? No. I believe they need to be locked up. It's just common sense to me. But here we are, accepting that this is the best that we can do. No, it's not. This is such a sick and depraved crime against the very innocent. Look at your children today and ask yourselves this hard question. Could they be the next victim? Who's living down the street from me? Who's over on the next block that I should be aware of? But once you're aware of them, what is your objective? You know, in some cases, there has been vigilantism, which I don't believe belongs in our neighborhoods. That could very easily cause harm on others. I just don't understand it. Are you okay with this? You know, little Megan deserved to be living in a safe community, as all children do. We don't want or need these predators living in our communities. You know, parents today are working many jobs to provide for their children. How on earth are they supposed to monitor child rapists? How could they say to their children, oh, by the way, don't go near that person's house? The child's not going to understand why when you say there's a bad person living there. I don't think they'll understand. And again, are you, who have children in school, being sent home with any notification coming from the school itself through law enforcement that there is a predator in your neighborhood? Please contact me in the notification box, in the comments section below. Sorry, this whole topic just angers me. Now on to something else. And it goes back to our communities being larger. And this is going to be a prelude to an upcoming video that I'm still researching. The one I said would tear the very guts of you and make you cry. Back in 2017, and again, I will post this link in the description box under my video. And I have looked at several news publications to verify this information, but I'll choose just this one coming from USA Today. Back in 2017, the Supreme Court Justice, in its infinite wisdom, declared that sex offenders could have access to social media. Get that? Yeah. They said that they had a constitutional right to access social media. So, we have sex offenders living in our community, right? They may have computers, right? Now, by design, through this ruling, they have the right to go on social media. Remember the other day, I pointed out we're on Facebook and proven by fact that sexual predators have been known to troll Facebook for images of children. This very court decision opened up the door for them. Change your privacy setting to private, especially if you are uploading images of children. The justices said a North Carolina law that made it a felony for sex offenders to access sites such as Facebook, Snapchat, LinkedIn violated the First Amendment. What? It violated the First Amendment of these deviants? Excuse me? No. You see, that's the problem that I have with sexual offenders, especially ones who rape children, living in our communities. That's my problem. And it should be all of our problem. You know, they said in the Supreme Court decision that they should have access to social media for job descriptions, maybe for a job that they can get. But this opened up the Pandora's box. According to USA Today, there are estimated to be 850,000 registered sex offenders in our country. That's a mind-boggling number. Kennedy, who was a Supreme Court judge, but at the time was still serving, called the case one of the first this court has taken to address the relationship between First Amendment and the modern Internet. You know, when you commit a crime, especially against children, I believe you give up certain rights. But maybe because we are allowing them to live within our community, they are enjoying the very right that you and I have to gain information and to speak freely on the internet. I have a problem with this. I want you to look up this link. I want you to see who's living in your community that is a threat to your child. It's basically the level 3 offenders that I have a real problem with living in our communities. I haven't always been the popular voice when it comes to Megan's Law, because I believe we must do everything to protect our children. And that means locking them up for life, where professional correctional officers are looking over them, where they are behind high razor wired fences and special segregation units. I'm not comfortable, nor should you be, with these offenders, monsters, abominations living in our communities. Who's going to be the next child in our community that will be targeted? Who will be the next child within our community that may fall victim to one of them and subsequently murdered? That's what I believe all of us need to open our eyes about and start demanding from our elected officials who are supposed to be there to serve the public's need to legislate for tougher sentencing. You know, I brought you the case with Shane Peach and Michael Wazlowski. Those two are not being locked up and will be allowed to live in our communities. That is an injustice to all of us. They should have been locked up. So, I really want to thank you for listening to me today. And if you are a parent, look up who's living in your community. But that's all you can do. Look up who's ever living in your community. There's really nothing you can do about them except tell your children, don't go over there. There's really nothing. And we go on with our busy lives. And I don't think that's right. I don't believe that we, the innocent, should be plagued by having these monsters in our midst. And yes, it is an abdication of the judicial system. As always, click like, click subscribe, and the notification bell for future videos where I will be touching upon pedophilia. By the way, when it comes to pedophilia, their mindset, and again, I don't want to be in their minds, they see nothing wrong with raping children. Let that sink in. And try to have a good day. And stay safe out there, okay? And protect your children. Love them, hug them, give them plenty of hugs and kisses. Because that's what we are supposed to do for our children, isn't it? Thank you, and have a good day.